Back with another Tip Tuesday video for you guys today. In this video, we're talking about the true count. I get a lot of comments that say something along the lines of, okay, I can count, plus ones, minus ones, zeros, but then what do I do with that information? And that's what this video is going to be about. The true count tells you kind of what to bet, when, as well as sometimes when to deviate or change basic strategy decisions based off of what the count is, okay? Because of that, let's just kind of play out this first hand. We're playing some double deck here. We've got a burn card in the discard tray. Our count is currently at 1, 2, 3. Of course, we're going to double down on this hand. All right, dealer has 7, 10, and 19. All right, and you unfortunately lost there with 14. So I gotta take your $100 if there's a $50 minimum table. But more importantly, what is a count? And our running count, which a lot of you are pretty good at, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's a neutral card, so it is 6. Now, what do I do with that? Well, to inform my next bet, I need to take that running count divided by the number of decks left. What I mean by that is if it's a handheld game, like here, this is maybe a pitch game or whatever in double deck, or if it's out of a shoe, if you're playing 6 deck or 8 deck, you got to account for how many decks are remaining. And the whole idea behind card counting is that you take that running count divided by that to get a ratio of your high cards compared to your low cards. And using that information, we want to bet more when the count is in our favor, when it's kind of a higher count. And we're going to bet less when the count is negative or really low and it's in the house's favor. So let's say we have this little bet spread chart over here. It's kind of a real simple one. And we were betting the $50 minimum when we were below a true count of +1. Anything that's negative or at a true 0, we're betting the table minimum, in this case $50. If that's not what you play, if you play $10 tables, same idea, just scale this back a little bit, and that would be a bet spread that you could potentially use. However, I would highly suggest you get bet spread software, maybe a pro betting software from Blackjack Apprenticeship or CVCX from QFit. Either way, it's going to be highly beneficial that you know exactly what you're betting and what you're risking, more importantly, so that you can bet appropriately to your bankroll. Anyway, that's what we were betting in the first hand. But now, remember, our count is currently a +6. What do I do with that? Well, I'm going to take 6 divided by 2, right? There's not quite enough cards in there to really divide by anything less. And so therefore, we're going to divide by 2 decks left. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's going to give you a true count of a true +3, which means I need to bet $300 in 2 spots according to this particular bet spread. So I'm going to take my bets here, bet $300 in 2 spots, and then the next round would progress. All right, and you see a bunch of 10s came out. And let's just play it out, see what happens. Okay, so first off, you have to update the count. So let's go back to that running count, which was 6. Now I'm doing a running count here, so it was 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. These are both stands, of course. 2, again, the running count's at 2, and they have 19, and so you won both of these hands. And you just made $600 like that because you knew what the true count was and you were able to put out those bigger bets. All right, I got our chips reset, and you might notice that I have some cards sticking out here. If I take off the last deck or so, you can see that these are some 4s, 5s, and 6s that I kind of put towards the beginning of our deck. And what this will do, this is called front loading. And if I kind of scoot those back in, this is going to cause our count to go way up, in hopes that we can hopefully get some more practice at those higher counts, which will help us kind of use some of these different bet levels in our bet spread as we convert the running count to the true count. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to talk through this whole double deck and kind of say the count as I go, convert that to the true count, ask you guys some questions to see if you can hopefully get better at this true count conversion, as that's what it takes to be a winning advantage player. We're of course going to start with our minimum bet of $50, as that's what a true 0, since we haven't played any cards yet, that's what a true 0 calls for. 0 divided by anything, in this case 2 decks left, is 0. So we're about 1 spot of $50. Above that, we can raise our bets by spreading to 2 spots as the count calls for. All right. Now let's try this. I'm going to be counting as we go here. So we currently have -1 or D1. I'm going to say D for down. Stand on 18. And D2, they had 20. So count start off a little negative. We're at D2. Anything negative is going to be the minimum bet. All right, so we're at D2 currently. There's our low cards. So we're at D2, D1, 0, 1. And this is a double down. Counts at 1, 2, and back to 1. Uh-oh. All right, so the count rose though, so that's helpful. Counts at +1. Now 1, if we kind of think and stop for a second here, 1 divided by still 2 decks left since there's not quite a half deck in there yet. Actually, it's not even close. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5 or 1/2. So 0.5. Whenever you have some sort of a decimal, we like to round in a way that's called truncating. And if I take that decimal 0.5 and kind of scrap it, then that 0 is what's left, and that is what we're going to kind of use as our true count. So we are still betting the minimum in this case. Now you always go back to your running count, which was 1. So let's do that here. All right, no blackjack, so it was at 1. Now 2, 3, 2. It's a hit. Back to 1, 2, and 3. Oh, they got us again. But again, our count rose. In this case, it rose enough for us to change our bets. So our count is at 3. 3 divided by still 2 decks left to be played, not a half deck in there yet. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, so 1.5. So again, I'm going to scrap the 0.5. I'm going to take that 1, which calls for us, a true 1, to bet $100 in 2 spots. All right, so now you go back to the running count, which was 3, and then we go from there. So it was 3, now 4, 5, 4, still 4. This is a double down. It's going to stand. 5 and 4, too many, and 5. So we won all of those because the dealer busted. The count is at 5. Okay, it's getting closer to a half deck, but it's still not quite, a little bit less than 26 cards. So 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. Again, 2.5, scrap the 0.5, and we're going to bet 2 spots of $200. Okay, the running count is 5. Still 5, 6, 7, 6. Blackjack. So back to 5. So you lost both, but now I have a count of 5, and I would say that there is a half deck in there. In fact, we can check. So remember that, kind of lock that 5 away. That's our running count. So let's see if this is 26 cards or more. I'm going to say it's 27. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I was 3 cards off, but it is above. The point is it's above our 0.5, or there's 0.5 decks that have been played, which means there's 1.5 left in the shoe. So what was our running count? It was 5. Hopefully you had that locked away. What is 5 divided by 1.5? Well, I like to think of it kind of in terms of what are the multiples of 1.5. And if we think 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, well, which one gets me the highest number before I cross over to 5? 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6. So I got to go back, and that'd be 3. Meaning that 5 divided by 1.5 is a true 3. So on my chart here, this calls for $300 in 2 spots. So let's do that. 2 spots of $300, and then go back to your running count of 5. Still 5, still 5, and 4. No blackjack this time. Nice. Still 4. Okay, there is a deviation for this hand. I had a true 4, but 4 divided by 1.5 is lower than that because we're not dividing by 1 yet. We are still going to hit this hand. Okay, now we can stand. Our count went up to 5. Stand on 17. 6 and 5. So nice. Won $600, and the count is still 5. So same math as before because we still are dividing by 1.5 decks left to be played. So 5 divided by 1.5 is a true 3. Go back to your running count of 5. All right, so if it was 5, now 4, 5, 6, 7. Stand and double. And 6, 5. Nice, 20. So because the dealer busted, You win all those. And what is our running count? Our running count is 5. I'd still say there's more than a deck in the shoe here, so we're still dividing by 1.5, and so 5 divided by 1.5 is still 3. Still 5, 4, 3, 4, blackjack. Okay, count is 4. Still 4, 5, and 4. All right, now this is interesting because I'd say that there is a deck that has been played, and this definitely looks like less than a deck. So what is my true count now? I'll give you guys a few seconds to think about it. Well, 4 divided by 1 is still 4, and so we're going to bet 2 spots of $400. Whoa, it's a good problem when you're knocking over chips. There's too many. Okay. All right, so I have a running 4 and a true 4 because we're dividing by 1. So go back to 4 for your running count. Still 4, 5. Now there actually is an expanded deviation. This little bonus tip here for you. 7s versus dealers 8 can split, and we're playing double deck, which, you know, some people split anyway with that. But because of that, we're going to split this. It's kind of an expanded one. You split at a true plus 4 is the deviation. This is an expanded one, so kind of an interesting situation here. What is our count though? It is 5. Okay, now it's at 4 and 3. This is a double. 4 and 5, so 18 and 4. All right, so we won that one. This one's a push, and that one we lost. All right, now we have a running 4 divided by 1 deck left is also a true 4. So same bet as before. We have a true 4, or running 4 I should say, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, stand, 4, 3, and 19. So you lost this one, but you won that one. Okay, now we have a true 3 divided by 1 deck. So we're going to bet 2 spots of $300. Looks like the last hand. 2, 1, and 0. No blackjack. Stand. And still 0. All right, so those are both pushes at 19. Now, to double check if your count was correct, if you were practicing on your own, you can take the remaining, and let's say you had plus 5 when you were counting, this would be worth minus 5. In our case, we had 0, and so this should also be 0 because we have a balanced count. If it was plus 2 and minus 2, those would come back together to be 0. 0 and 0 is going to come back together to be 0. So this should add up to be 0 if we are correct. Let's try it. We have 1, still 1, 0, D1, 0, D1, D2, D1, 0, D1, D2, D1, D2, D1, 0, D1, 0, 1, 0, 1, and 0. So my counts were correct. Hopefully you were as well. All right, we're going to do this one more time, and this time I'm not going to be saying stuff out loud as much, but I will maybe pause 3 or 4 times and ask you guys what type of situations are happening. Maybe it calls for a deviation. Maybe I'm going to ask you what the true count is, or maybe what to bet. So I'll get these shuffled up and we'll try it one more time. All right, so we got a lot of ammo here to work with because that last one worked out pretty well for us. We are going to be starting with the minimum of $25. Again, I might cut in 3 or 4 times and ask you guys some questions, but for right now, see if you can keep the running count. I'll try to go a little slower and then try to convert to the true count based off of how many decks are remaining. All right, let's try it. All right, let's stop right there. What is the running count and what is the true count? All right, if you said the running count was 1 and the true count was 0, then you are correct. Remember, it should be 1 divided by, I would say, about 1.5 decks. Well, we have 0 point some sort of decimal in that case, and so we would scrap the decimal and round down to 0, and therefore we would bet the minimum. All right, I am out of green chips though, so let me get a few more. All right, go back to your running count of 1, and let's continue. Okay, once again, what is the running count and what is the true count? This time, if you said the running count is 1 and the true count is also 1, you are correct, because if the running count is 1 and we're dividing by 1 deck left, 1 divided by 1 is 1. So we're going to bet 2 spots of $100 this time. All right, got to end on a loss there, but what is our final count? And again, just like in the other round, our count is 0. That's what I have at least. Let's double check to see if we are right. If we are, again, this should also be 0. We have D1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0, and still 0. So yeah, my count was 0. That was also correct. That wasn't very fun though. I might have to stack this again just so that we can get a nice high count. So you get a bonus round here. And so let's do, I'll just kind of show you how I do this, by the way, so you can practice at home as well. I take the first chunk. Because this was 0, I might keep this as well. You can maybe give it some shuffles, but that's going to be what kind of goes behind my cut card. All right, and then yeah, I'm going to take this first chunk or so, and in that I'm going to find some low cards. I like the 5s and 4s especially, so there's a couple, and I'm going to insert this into the first little group here. If there's a bunch of 10s in a row, 10 valued cards, like here's a few, I like to kind of put those in the other one just to front load my deck so it looks nice. There's another couple. All right, and then we'll take those, insert them into the beginning, give it some shuffles just like that, and then just double check, are there any big groups of 10s? There's some 10s together, and maybe some 10s there and there. All right, so now this chunk, give it a little more shuffle, should have a nice high count. And then the rest of this, kind of before the cut card, should be our high valued cards, which will cause our count to come back towards 0 after being a little bit high before that. So remember, this has to go on top like this. All right, and then let's see if you guys, again, I'll go a little quicker this time, can count through this, and hopefully you can get some better counts along the way. All right, what is our running count now? And what is our true count? If you said it was a running 2 and a true 1, you are correct. 2 for the running count divided by 2 is 1. So go back to your running count of 2. All right, here's an interesting one. First off, what is our running count? And what is our true count? Using the cards on the table. I have a set a count of 7, and then 7 divided by, I'd say 1.5. Again, using the cards, there might not quite be 26 in here, but with the cards on the table, there is. And so you can use that information to your advantage. 7 divided by 1.5, well, 6 divided by 1.5 is a true 4. And that is the point at which this deviation happens. This is a 15 versus dealer's 10, which says we should stand at a true count of plus 4 or higher, which we are at. Okay, and so we're gonna stand. I have a running 7. And so they got us, unfortunately. We lost this one, but this was at 19, so we did win that one. Okay, go back to your running 7 and continue. Right, what's our running count now? And our true count? All right, I was at a running 9 and a true count of plus 6, which is above our max bet. And so we're gonna bet 2 spots of $500. Go back to your running 9 and continue. Should I take insurance? Yes, I should. Okay, what's the running count now? And the true count. I've set a running 3 and a true 3 because there is less than a deck remaining. And once again, I was at a count of 0. So if we're right, this should be 0. Let's try it. We have 1, 0, D1, D2, D1, 0, D1, 0, D1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, D1, D2, D1, and 0. So my counts were correct the whole time. Hopefully you were as well. If you are interested in kind of doing this more and more, on my Patreon, on the lowest tier, I do one of these kind of double deck series every single week. And I play out 4 shoes, and I kind of try to grow a bankroll over time. Not every time is a winner. Sometimes we're losers, but currently we're growing 35,000 up to 50,000. So if you're watching this in kind of mid 2026, that's when it's happening. If you are interested, let's see if we won or lost today. I start with $5,000 out here. So it looks like we currently have 1, 2, and then 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. So yeah, we did win a little bit. So even though we lost some greens, we're at 5,000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 550, 5,550, which after a couple shoes of double deck is pretty expected. You know, you're not going to win tons, but you could, and you're not going to lose tons again, but you could. But here, about right, with just kind of a slight win. Now, one thing I always like to point out is, you know, we were betting those black chips when we had the advantage. When we were betting the green chips, we did not. And so that's why typically you lose more greens than whatever your minimum bet if you're betting red chips. Then when you do have the advantage, when you have the black chips out there. And so therefore that's kind of why those are the way that they are. Again, if you're interested, here's the Patreon link. You can check that out if you want more of this kind of content. Otherwise, until next time, remember, this is A1 Blackjack.